At the bottom of Module 1, you'll see that you're going to be writing an annotated bibliography once you decide on a specific topic from the list of topics that I've given you here, the 6 topics. You'll choose the topic and you'll do a brief search to determine which side of the issue that you're on. You will choose one side. They all have a yes or no response, but you choose one side of the issue, and then you'll do a brief Google search in order to determine what it is that is out there on that issue. And then after you've done that, I want you to go through and use the database video, because we want to try to avoid searching through Google as much as possible and to lean specifically on the databases, as I've explained in that particular video, because the databases are going to provide you with the most current, up-to-date information that we know is actually credible. I have provided you in Module 1 with the name of the person who's over the library in case you have questions and you can't find the answers based upon those other resources that I showed you in the video. He will be a good resource for you to be able to help you specifically with determining what it is that you need to find. So after you've chosen a topic and you've developed a side of the issue that you're going to take, and you've gone through and you've looked at the Research Notes PowerPoint, I have provided you with specific ways to write your thesis statements, and I've given you additional examples of the way that I want the thesis statement set up. And once you've decided a side of the issue with the thesis statement, you're going to write an annotated bibliography. Now, when you're writing an annotated bibliography, all that you're doing is basically choosing 5 sources that you're going to use in the paper that help support your side of the argument. And once you choose those 5 sources and you know that each one of those actually supports what it is that you're attempting to try to say, what your thesis says, which side of the issue that you're actually going to be on. Once you've chosen those 5 sources and you've summarized the information and you've got the bibliography information for that, you're going to go through and summarize each article. Now, whenever you're writing a summary, as I said here, it becomes extremely easy to use the words says or states each time you want to put what it is that an author is actually attempting to try to write about. And I've provided you here a list of verbs to choose other than says or states whenever you're writing your annotated bibliography, to avoid falling into the pitfall of using says or states over and over again. Here's a huge variety of words to choose from to stay away from these two. Now, once you click on the annotated bibliography assignment, what you're going to do is see the setup of what it is that I want you to have, and I've included some things in here that are just basically nothing but notes, so that you'll be able to kind of look specifically at what it is that I want you to do for the annotated bibliography. Each one of your annotations is going to be on a separate page. As you see here, I have all 5 of them here listed, and at the top of the first page you're going to put your name, the name of the course, my last name, and then the date that it's going to be due. And I put up here, notice that each of the entries are in alphabetical order by the author's last name or the article title. Since this one here is first, we'll notice here that this doesn't have an author's name, so we alphabetize by the A at the beginning. If this was an article such as A, an, or the, you would of course alphabetize by the second word, which is described in your textbook the way that you set up the works cited page at the end. The bibliography information can be found by using the databases, clicking on Cite, and choosing the MLA format. And you'll notice here that in this particular article, since there is no author, the person used the article title as the author throughout the summary. Every single sentence within the summary is going to be cited, and I put here must cite every sentence in the summary, because we don't know which one of these sentences we will use later on. We're basically just summarizing this first article. We read it, we put the bibliography information on it, and then we're writing a summary. There's no opinion that's going to be found in this summary. You're just simply doing nothing but summarizing the information. There was no page number listed here, so we used the tag N.PAG in parentheses to determine that there is no page number. But every single sentence is cited. It says here that the summary must be at least 230 words long. That's anywhere between 8 to 10 sentences. Your summary doesn't need to be over a page in length, and you're going to have one direct quote that you use in each one of the summaries. And I put there that it needs to be bold-faced. The direct quote is going to be something that is taken word for word from the summary, and what you'll do is you'll boldface that direct quote, put it in quotation marks at the beginning and at the end of the quote, and then that way you'll know that this is a direct quote, and whenever you submit it, the turn it in uh, turn it in will not catch it because it is in quotation marks to say that it is actually a direct quote. You'll notice that each time an article title is used, every single time you use an article titles are in quotation marks, even inside the parentheses whenever you use a shortened form of those. They have to be in quotation marks because that's the way that we set up article titles. And basically all that this person did was found this article. This article supported what was said in his or her thesis, and the person went through and just summarized the article for the first annotation in the annotated bibliography. The second one here, you'll see, actually has two authors, Clark and Wang. Okay, you'll notice here on each one of these annotations, as the textbook explains to you, each one of the bibliography entries uses what is called hanging indent. Hanging indent is where you start at the margin, and then the second line is going to be indented. The first line is always at the margin and the second line is indented. You'll see that it is double spaced throughout, one blank line between each line of type as you're typing. You'll notice that all article titles, as we said here and here, are in quotation marks. The name of the sources are going to be italicized as they are here, here, here. This is the volume, period, issue number, the date in parentheses, and then the actual page numbers. All databases, database names are going to be italicized. Since you found this from the internet, you will put the word web, and then the access date is the date that you actually found the article, the date that you searched and found it. So this date is going to have to be within this particular trimester. It can't be any different. It can't be a time in the past. It's going to have to be very current. It'll have to be during the trimester in which you're actually looking. So this date is the date of the article. This date is the date of access. And you'll see here, as we went through each one of these things, that the person basically just went through and summarized in 230 words what it is that the article said. They cited the name of the person or persons who spoke, who wrote in this article at the beginning, and they used something other than says or states. Because they didn't know the specific page numbers that the article was on, simply using the plus sign to show that there are multiple pages is perfectly fine, and you'll notice that all the pages are the same throughout because they wasn't sure exactly where it stopped. The plus takes care of that. Notice that if the author's names are in the sentence, you don't need a name at the end. All you need is a page number. But when there are no names in the sentence, you'll need both names at the end. And of course, every single sentence is cited, and the direct quote is going to be bold-faced. Now I want you to look at this sentence right here briefly, because sometimes you'll read an article that is written by someone, like for instance this one was written by Clark and Wang, but as Clark and Wang wrote their article, they actually went to an additional source to find information to make their article credible. And one of the sources that they wrote about or used in their article was somebody named Dr. Jennifer Collins. So Dr. Jennifer Collins actually pointed out that there were ways to cut the cost of college, and whenever they went through and they actually listed this information, they put the person's name who was responsible, but at the end they put QTD, lowercase, in Clark and Wang. And basically that's just a way of saying that Jennifer Collins was actually quoted in Clark and Wang. MLA affords the fact that it doesn't necessarily have to be in direct quotes, and it can be, that's perfectly fine. But QTD takes the place of saying that this is something that Clark and Wang actually used in their article, so that you're citing who it is that actually said it and not giving credit to Clark and Wang, but giving them credit for actually writing the article. As we progress through, you'll notice A, C, H, and here's an article without an author, T, and then ending up with S. And of course, I just realized that in my example, and this is a perfect way to teach you so that when you go back and look at it to be sure that everything is set up correctly, in the example that I've provided here, the S and T are backwards. We should alphabetize that because S comes before T. That was my mistake. So be sure that you are looking very carefully, because you see how easy it is to make a mistake whenever you're attempting to try to put this together. You want the S to come before the T. And notice that all the way throughout, everything is cited, and all of my directions to remind you each time are listed here at the bottom. Do not, whenever you turn this in, include this information. Just simply put one summary on each page. Start out with your heading at the top and go through and list each one of the pieces of information that you have throughout. Make sure that they're at least 230 words long and that you have every single sentence cited. The number one thing to remember about the annotated bibliography is that every single summary that you provide needs to be paraphrased. That means it needs to be put in your own words. You cannot actually go through and just copy and paste directly from the article. You are paraphrasing the information, putting it in your own words, and you're not including any opinion. Your opinion on the issue is going to come in your side that you take with the argument whenever you actually write the paper later on. But there is no opinion at all in this particular thing that you're writing here. You're just summarizing what the article actually says.